Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. So I'm sorry I can't be there for the first day of classes. Unfortunately, I'm at a conference and I need to be here until Monday, and so I'm going to be missing your class tomorrow. But I didn't want you to lose any material in the time that I'm gone, so here I am making this video. I'm actually in Scotland and I'm in St. Andrews, and I'll be here until Monday. Yeah. Okay, so actually let me just start by also saying, that I'll unfortunately be missing 2 more classes this semester, also for conferences. Next Thursday will be off. Well, at least it's not going to be off for you, but I'm not going to be around because I'm going to be in Greece for another conference. And then on November 21st, I'm going to be in Spain for yet another conference. Nevertheless, I'll make up for each of these for each of these missed sessions by either video, or if you guys have an assignment, then you'll just do the assignment at that time. Okay. So what I'm going to do, because I have 3 classes that I'm teaching this semester, is that I'm going to start with the general part, which is shared between all the classes, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about each specific part. So, my name is Ramil Ali, and I'm going to be your teacher for this semester. Honestly, I'm unsure, who's going to be in the class, so maybe some of you know me, maybe some of you don't, but in any case, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the course is going to be run. So, first of all, you have on Blackboard the course packets, which are electronic course packets, and you can feel free to use them on your computer or your iPads, or print them out. It's up to you, but you have to make sure that you do read, because in this course, reading is not optional. You can see my email, you can see my webpage there, you can see my office, and also you can see where my office hours are. So because I'm working on a book this semester, I'm not going to be around in my office all the time. And so if you would like to meet with me, just make sure that you email me 1 day in advance. If you do, I'll always be there. And the days that I will be able to meet are Tuesday and Thursday, 11 to 12:15, and Wednesday, 11 onwards for the rest of the day. So at any time during those times, you can email me 1 day ahead of time, and I'll be sure to show up. Okay, so let me start by saying a few things. Unfortunately, I left my iPad, so I have to look at this on my phone. Okay, so I guess LAU now has this new procedure where we have to tell you guys what sort of teaching or learning method these classes use. So all the classes in philosophy use what we call the Socratic Method. This is like a method where I ask you guys questions and I have you answer them. I guess you'll see it, in practice. So I'm not going to sit down and describe it very much, but the important thing for you to realize is that all philosophy courses focus on critical thinking, and they assume your involvement. So if you're not ready to be involved, and if you're not ready to think about these issues instead of just memorize or something else, then please just drop the course. It's not going to be a course for you. The idea is to have you guys be able to form your own judgment skills. That's what critical thinking really means. Okay, so you have to read the syllabus. If it's your responsibility, everything in the syllabus is your responsibility, so please don't assume that this short lecture is going to be a replacement for that. What I am going to do is I'm going to highlight some of the important parts. So now I'm going to be looking at the academic violations and the code of conduct that you guys are expected to follow. So the most important ones for me is that if you receive, purchase, or sell a project, a paper, or any academic document and present it as your own, or have somebody else present it as your own, the punishment for that is suspension or expulsion from the university as a whole. So make sure that you don't do this. I'm very strict about these things. I've punished students before for this type of thing, so make sure that you don't do this. You can't submit the same paper you've submitted to another class unless you ask me in advance. That's another important one. If you copy the words of another person, this is plagiarism, okay? If you copy the words of another person, whether those words are in writing, from a YouTube video, from an audio recording, my own words, without saying that this is the source that you're using, this counts as plagiarism, and you'll definitely get a 0 on the assignment, and if this happens again, you'll get an F on the course as a whole. And finally, of course, you can't use copyrighted material. This is roughly the same thing, you know, at least in my book, for as far as plagiarism goes. You also can't record these lectures for your personal use unless you ask me in advance. You have to take permission from me. So make sure that you do that. If you're caught doing that without permission, this also gets you a warning, a dean's warning, and then a double dean's warning. Okay. So let me just tell you now about the attendance policy. You're expected to attend all the classes, okay? For valid reasons, you can miss classes for up to a maximum of the equivalent of 2 regular weeks. This means you can miss a maximum of 4 classes. If you miss more than 4 classes, then I need you to drop the course. I'm telling you this right now. So if you don't drop the course, you will most definitely receive an F. If you miss more than 4 classes, since these are only Tuesday, Thursday classes, you will most definitely get an F in the course, or else you have to drop, okay? If you have some sort of, you know, problem, like illness or something happens, you have to talk to the department chair. This is Professor Vahid Behmerdi, about your situation. You don't talk to me about it. Okay, and you're responsible for all the material that you miss in any classes, regardless of what the reason is. So I'm not going to be repeating the material because you weren't around. For withdrawal from the course, right, you can receive 3 sorts of you know, withdrawals from the course. One is an early withdrawal. This doesn't count towards anything in your transcript, and you have to do this within the first 5 weeks of the class. Then there's a WP, which means withdrawal but in good standing, and then there's withdrawal WF, which is withdrawal in bad standing. The latter gives you impacts your transcript negatively, the other does not. Okay, so LAU has a new policy now, and this new policy is that if you complete your instructor evaluation at the end, and course evaluation at the end of the semester, you can get your grades faster. And I just want to point out, because I think some students don't seem to know this, that I'm the one who receives your course evaluations. So you're not, you know, writing to somebody else and telling them, oh, look, this class was this way or that way. You're writing to me, so leave feedback that would help me improve the course in the future. This is what really matters. And you know, to do this, you have to explain why you're giving the evaluation that you're giving. You know, don't say, oh, the course was awesome, because that doesn't, you know, tell us anything. And don't say the course was terrible, because that doesn't tell us anything. Say it was terrible because blah blah blah, and it was awesome because blah blah blah. Okay, I mean, this is, you know, so that we can improve the university as a whole and to improve the situation of future students who are taking the course. Let me give you some tips for success in my courses. So these are also written in your syllabus. Don't waste your time thinking and talking about grades. Don't waste your time, don't waste my time. This class is about the topics we're covering, not about the grades. You know, this is like somebody playing Pac-Man and looking at the high score the whole time that they're playing Pac-Man. You're going to lose that way. The best way to win is to pay attention to Pac-Man, make sure you eat all the dots, and this is how you're going to get a high score. So if you pay attention to the course material, you will most definitely be able to do well in the class. Look, reading is not optional in this class. I'm going to, in some cases, quiz you on these. I'm going to, you know, make sure that when you answer questions, that your answers and questions are informed by the readings. If I feel like, you know, you're not doing the readings, then I'm going to figure out some procedure of making you do them. It's not that you have to do them, you know, 100% of the time, but at least aim for 80% of the time, not for 20% of the time. And honestly, the only students who benefit from classes are the ones who do the readings, and you might think that university is just a temporary thing, but it's not, you know. This is, you're investing in your own mind in the same way that you can invest, you know, in a career, you can invest in your own mind, you can invest in your own body, and so on. Okay, definitely, as I said, again, don't miss the 4 classes. And look, using a phone, a laptop, etc. is going to distract you and distract others around you. Now, I don't care if you don't care about your own distraction, but I do care that you don't distract anybody around you. So make sure you avoid this as much as possible. If you're going to be using a laptop or an iPad or a phone for the readings, then that's fine, but then don't, you know, jump to Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is on the side. If you do that, I will definitely deduct points from your total. Let me give you a final additional remark, because I've had some very unpleasant encounters in the last semester. Look, I will not accept any requests to not fail you if you deserve to fail. If you deserve to fail, you will fail. I don't care if this will mean that you lose your scholarship, that you have to leave the university, that you have to leave your program, that you have to lose a job, that you have to get into extensive trouble with your family. None of these reasons matter. If you want to pass the course, then work hard to do well in the course, and make sure that you avoid cheating and plagiarism at all costs. If you're unclear about what any of this means, it's your responsibility to ask me. Okay? So I think this does it with the general part, and now, you know, we can move on to some of the more fun and pleasant parts about the course. All right? Okay. So let's talk about what this literature and film class is about. Basically, guys, this is a course that we might think of as philosophy in art. Our aim is to try and see how philosophical ideas emerge in artworks. So whether you're just, you know, casually interested in art, or working in, you know, literature or media studies or film or whatever, right? This course should be of benefit to you. It should be of benefit to you regardless, because as I said, you know, philosophical method is helpful across the board. But this is basically what this course is. What we're going to be doing is exploring philosophical ideas through artworks, and mainly focusing on movies and on short stories, but also we're going to look at plays, we're also going to look at music, we're also going to look at video games. You know, these will have a more marginal part in the course, but nevertheless, I want you to see that philosophy occurs in all forms of art. It doesn't just occur in movies or books or short stories or whatever. So let me just go through a few of the more formal aspects of this. Let me start with the catalog description. So this class aims to bring philosophical issues to life by considering their appearance in different art forms. The focus of the class is on drawing philosophical arguments and conclusions from different types of art, in particular literature and film. And the questions that we're going to raise are about many different things, you know, but we're going to look at different aspects of reality, the nature of human beings, knowledge, morality, so that's right and wrong, God, as well as the meaning of life. Now, we might not, you know, get to all of these types of issues within our course, but nevertheless, you know, we'll be able to bring all of them up. For the course learning outcomes, basically the aim of this class is to look at various forms of art, in particular film and literature, with an eye towards the philosophical issues raised in them. We're also going to discuss some basic issues in metaphysics, epistemology, and ethics. So this also functions as kind of an introduction to philosophy. We're also going to broadly talk about the relationship between philosophy and art, and for us in specific, philosophy and fiction. And then finally, we're going to learn how to evaluate artworks from an ethical perspective. And just to say a little bit about how this class fits in with the bigger goals of the program, basically what I want you guys to be able to come out with, and the way this is related to the rest of philosophy, is that you're going to learn how to critically engage with ancient and contemporary philosophical works on various topics, including topics in metaphysics, epistemology, ethics, philosophy of art, philosophy of religion, and existentialism. You're also going to learn how to extract arguments, definitions, and ideas from both philosophical and artistic artworks. Actually, I can say more than that. You're going to learn how to extract arguments, definitions, and ideas from all sorts of texts, in general. And then finally, we're going to learn how to present philosophical arguments in a clear, analytic, and persuasive manner in writing. And this is why I say, a course like this is going to be of benefit to you regardless of what your core major is. Okay. So I've kind of gone through some of these more formal elements, but let me just do a quick rundown of the weeks of this class. We're actually going to focus on a small number of topics, but each of them, will be developed through artworks, and, I think it should be a very enjoyable experience. My general impression is that students really love this class because you get to watch so many movies and you get to do so many interesting readings, and everything is, relevant and philosophically interesting. So, in week 1, this is the course introduction, this is what I'm doing right now, and then week 2 is we're going to learn how to reason through artworks. So we're going to look at 2 short clips, one from this movie Waking Life, another from this movie called Zizek, and we're going to learn how to pull out an argument from what the movie shows. In a way, these will be kind of like the shortest pieces, but also, ones which will help prepare you for the rest of the class. So week 2 is actually just one session because, in fact, what's going to happen is that there's going to be a vacation on one of the days. Then, weeks 3 to 5, we're going to look at a paradox, which is called the paradox of fiction. So this is a really interesting paradox, and the paradox goes like this. It says, well, look, imagine you're watching a movie and now the main character is in danger. Why are you worried about it? Very often we do worry. We're like, oh no, is this character going to make it? Are they not going to make it? So why are we worried? After all, we know it's a fiction. We know this is not really happening. Are we just fooled by it? Are we just suspending disbelief? What's going on exactly? So this is an interesting paradox in philosophy, and it basically raises the question of why do we even care? Why do we even care when we watch movies or TV shows or play video games? How can we care about these characters given that we know that they're not real? Do we just care about things that are not real in general? That doesn't seem to be the case. After all, you're not right now afraid, that a non-real ghost is going to get you. You're only afraid if you think that it's really real. So there's a real puzzle about that. And so we'll spend the first part of our course discussing this, weeks 3 through 5. And we're going to do this through 3 pieces of art. We're going to look at a short half-hour long movie. Well, it's not a movie, it's actually part of a TV show called Alfred Hitchcock Presents. It's a very old TV show. And we're going to look at the episode called You Gotta Have Luck. We're also going to read a short story by this sci-fi author called Philip K. Dick, who actually has been very influential in culture. He's the one who's responsible for movies. Well, his stories are the ones that form the foundation for movies like Blade Runner, for movies like Minority Report, and many others, in fact. And we're going to also look at one piece of music, which is David Bowie's Space Oddity. Then, in weeks 6 through 8, we're going to turn to what we call epistemology, or the theory of knowledge. And here, the question that we're really going to be raising is, can we humans know anything at all? I mean, of course, you might think that, obviously, you know some things. You know that you're watching me right now. But do you know that you're watching me right now? And are you certain that, well, here's why you might worry that maybe we're not certain. Because you all have had the experience of thinking that you know something, and then sometime later in your life deciding that, no, I didn't know it. I was mistaken. And actually, if we look at the history of humanity, we see that this is the case all the time. We always think that we knew things, and then we find out that we were wrong. We thought Newtonian physics was right. It turns out it's not right. The theory of relativity is right. And this has happened again and again in human history. So there's a real question about what it is that we can know. And we're going to do this through 2 movies. One of them is a Spanish movie called Open Your Eyes. Well, it's called whatever its Spanish equivalent is, but we're going to look at the version called Open Your Eyes. It's actually the original movie for another movie, which is called Vanilla Sky. That's the American variation on it. But Vanilla Sky is a much worse movie than Open Your Eyes, so I'm sticking with Open Your Eyes. Then we're also going to look at this kind of now classic movie called The Matrix, and maybe some of you have seen it, but it raises these questions quite well. Then in weeks 9 through 11, we're going to actually turn to something else. We're going to look at metaphysics. Metaphysics is the study of the nature of reality. And actually, we're going to look at the reality, one part of reality, which is us humans. Look, for many of us, we believe that we're free. After all, it looks like I'm choosing to make this video, and you guys who are watching it are choosing to watch it right now as opposed to some other time, and so on. But on the other hand, we sometimes feel like we're really not free. After all, we weren't free to be born into the family we were born into, to live in the neighborhood that we live in, to speak the English language or the Arabic language, and so on. So are we free or are we not free? This is really the question that we're going to be focusing on in weeks 9 through 11. And we're going to do this through a bunch of artworks as well. We're going to look at a movie by the really good director, Werner Herzog. It's actually a documentary. It's called Encounters at the End of the World. And it's about, these people who live in Antarctica. We're also going to look at a video game. This video game is called The Stanley Parable. I'll bring in a computer and I'll let you guys play a few runs of it, and it actually raises this problem of free will quite nicely. You can also play it at home if you end up feeling like it. We're also going to look at an awesome short story by this female sci-fi author called And I Awoke and Found Me Here on the Cold Hills Side. This is a really cool story. It's kind of a difficult story to grasp, but it's only 6 pages long, but it raises some really interesting points, about us humans. We'll also look at Mark Twain, who is both a deep and really funny guy, and we're going to look at this short story called Letters from the Earth, where we, hear about these letters that are being sent between the angels about Earth. And then we're going to listen to one piece of music, which is David Byrne's Like Humans Do, and this will raise kind of some questions about free will too. Finally, in the last couple of weeks, these are 12 through 15, we're going to turn to ethics, which is the study of morality or the study of what's right and wrong. And there we're going to, consider some challenges to the idea of, well, is there really something that's right and something that's wrong? Who's to say what's right and wrong? And, is it all relative? Is it all, should we just not believe in, goodness and badness? Or are those real things? This is the question that we're going to be raising there. We're going to do that through a series of readings. We're also going to watch 3 movies for this part. The first is a documentary. It's a very intense documentary, a very, very intense documentary, so I hope you guys have strong hearts. It's called The Act of Killing, and it actually follows somebody who has killed 1,000 people by hand, who was involved in a genocide, and we see him talking about himself throughout this documentary. Then we're going to look at this shorter movie by Stanley Kubrick. It's one of his earlier movies called Paths of Glory, and it's a really awesome movie. I won't say much more about it for now. And then finally, we're going to look at Coppola's a movie. She makes this movie called The Virgin Suicides, which is a really, really great movie. It's very beautiful music and very nicely shot, and tells a very nice story, and it's a way of kind of addressing ethics from a more practical point of view. And so this is kind of like the run-through of the course material. Yeah, so I hope you guys are excited because, it's a really fun course. Most of it you're going to be doing artworks. We're also going to be doing a little bit of philosophy, but, the majority of it is really going to be kind of thinking about these artworks. For the course grading, so here's how I've cut it up. It's 5 different components. So next week, after we do the part on reasoning, I'll give you a quick short assignment in class, and this will be during the day that I'm not around. It won't be the full class length, but it's going to be on reasoning well, and you need to learn how to do this because otherwise the whole rest of the course is going to be difficult on you. It's about, the reading that you'd have to do and to understand is about 3 pages, so don't panic. And you already have it. It's in the course packet. It's the first reading there. Then we're going to have 3 kind of bigger assignments. The first one is going to emphasize writing arguments. How do you write an argument? And what's an argument in the first place? Now, you'll have learned what an argument is in a more technical sense be using the first assignment. But here, after we finish the paradox of fiction, I'm going to ask you to defend your own position in an in-class assignment. I'll give you time to prep, and you really don't have to memorize anything. The idea is to just think about this paradox of fiction and decide on what solution of the three possible solutions you would accept and why you would accept it. So this is, what it is to write an argument. In the second assignment, we're going to focus on analyzing an artwork. We're going to finish watching the we're going to finish the skepticism section, and then after that, I'm going to give you an in-class assignment as well, where I'm going to ask you to analyze a new movie. I'll give you the movie ahead of time, you'll watch the movie, and then you'll kind of give me your thoughts and analysis of this movie from a philosophical perspective. Then we're going to turn to one last thing, which is how to give clear definitions and how to describe positions. Because very often in philosophy, you're not just giving your own arguments. In general, in life, you don't just give your own arguments. You have to be able to understand another person's arguments and to define the core ideas that you guys are talking about. So after we finish the section on right and wrong, we're going to look at a movie. In fact, I don't have this quite right, because actually we'll be doing both free will and right and wrong. But it doesn't really matter, So what we'll do is you'll pick a movie and you'll present its central ethical questions along with some discussions of free will. And then finally, because this movie is so centered on watching these, this course is so centered on watching these movies and reading these short stories and listening to these pieces of music and playing this game, what I'm going to do is throughout the semester, I'm going to give you these very short quizzes. They'll basically just be checking that you watched the movie. So for instance, if Santa Claus shows in the movie, maybe the question that I'll raise is something like, which fictional or which, character shows up in the movie, and then I'll say something like Batman, Santa Claus, or whatever, and you guys will pick Santa Claus because if you've watched it, you'll know that it's Santa Claus. So these aren't supposed to be something big, but, they're just something to make sure that you guys are staying on top of the artworks. When this doesn't happen, I'll just take attendance. Okay, well, this about wraps it up for this introductory section of the course. I see you guys, I guess, next Tuesday. Cheers.